So hello students, I hope everyone is safe and sound and doing extremely well in life. This is Basavaraj Sir, your biology master teacher. Welcome to your own channel, that is Vedantu NEET English students. Now before we start today's amazing class that is going to be morphology in flowering plants, quickly tell me in the chat if my voice is audible to all of you and the presentation behind me, the beautiful flowers, are visible to all of you. Quickly let me know in the chat quickly. Yes, if I am audible and visible to all of you. Now, while we wait for everyone to join, can anyone tell me the difference between this particular protective structure right here as well as this structure right here? Now you will tell me, sir, obviously there are two different plants, but what exactly are they? Let me give you a small clue. One of them is a stem and one of them is a leaf, right? One of them is a stem and one of them is a leaf. Now, which one is a stem modification? Which one is a leaf? First of all, both of them do not look like stem or leaf, but one of them is a stem modification and one of them is a leaf modification. Let's see how many of you can tell the difference between which one of them is stem and which one of them is a leaf. Now what is this modification which I'm talking about, students? Modification is basically a part of a plant is able to do some extra function apart from the regular function. For example, usually a stem, the main function of stem is conduction of water and food. The main function of stem is to provide stability, anchorage, and to bear flowers and fruits. But this right here is also a type of stem modification, which is nothing but thorns. This right here is a leaf modification. Leaf modification. Now, what are these modification? What are the different types of modification? All of them will be learning in today's class. What is the difference between phyloclad and phylloid? What is the difference between a tendril modification in case of stem? And what is the difference between a tendril modification in the case of leaf? What is the difference? What is this banana plant or a tree? What if I tell you banana plant, which you see the trunk is not actually a trunk. It is a pseudostem. Then where is the actual stem of the banana plant? So all of those interesting facts and interesting way we'll be learning today's botany class, because this is the chapter morphology of flowering plants, right? And students, let me tell you, in today's class we'll be dealing with root, stem, leaf and inflorescence. All of these four different types of subtopics we'll be talking in today's class. Okay. So can we start the class quickly? Greenhouse in the chat, everyone, if you are excited for today's amazing class, that is morphology of flowering plants. Now students, you might be wondering how many marks does this chapter hold, right? How many marks will I get from attending this class, sir? So let me tell you, students, in total of 4 questions, minimum to minimum, 4 questions end up coming from this chapter. 4 questions. Now that's 4 into 4, that's around 16 marks from this chapter alone. 16 marks from this chapter alone. So today's class you can expect around half of it, that is around 7 marks, 8 marks, and next other part 2 you'll be expecting around 8 marks. Okay, 8 marks. Now students, let's start the class with the basic definition of morphology. The basic definition of morphology before we even go to the entire structure and everything. Now what is the meaning of morphology? Students, let me break down the word for you. Morpho. Let me break down the word for you, that morpho and logy. Morpho and logy. Now what is the meaning of morpho? The meaning of morpho is very simple. The meaning of morpho is that shape or form, or I can even say structure. Shape, form and structure. Then what is the meaning of logy? Logy means to study. If you want to study the shape, the form and the structure of something, it is called as morphology. And the chapter name is Morphology of Flowering Plants. So technically in this chapter you will be studying about the external shape and the size as well as the structure of a flowering plant. So okay. Now let's get into the actual plant itself. Now if you look at a typical plant, this right here is a typical plant. The entire plant can be divided into 2 categories. We have the root system and we have the shoot system. All of you agree with me? Yes. There is root system and there is shoot system. Now, if you look closely, I want everyone to identify. Which of the following parts, that is flower, fruit, stem, leaf, root, bud, which of the following are vegetative in nature, which of the following are vegetative in nature, and which of the following are parts of the plant reproductive in nature, reproductive as well as vegetative in nature. Now, go. Your time starts now. Quickly, tell me in the chat. If you look at a typical plant, the vegetative part which comes to your mind, first of all, is going to be the stem, the entire stem here. It's going to be the stem. Then leaves. Yes, sir. Leaves also are vegetative. Root. Yes, sir. Root is also vegetative in nature. Then we also have the branches. We have the branches. Yes. Root, stem, leaf, and branches. Yes. Then what about reproductive? What about reproductive structures? If you look at the reproductive structure, the reproductive organ should come to your mind. The reproductive organ in the case of plants is the flower. Is going to be the flower. Apart from flower, the product of reproduction. The product of reproduction is fruit as well as the seed. So all of the following are the different parts of the plant. For example, vegetative is stem, leaves, root and branches. And when it comes to the reproductive, it is going to be flower, fruit and seed. I hope that simple definition of vegetative and reproductive is clear to all of you now. Right? Now, let's get to the next concept. It is root system now. Now, when all of you think about root, what comes to your mind? First of all, tell me. When you think about root, the first thing which comes to your mind is underground, right? It is underground. But before we go to the underground part of the root, how many of you can tell me root develops from which part of the seed? For example, this is a typical seed, right? This is the typical seed. Growing. It has two parts. We have the plumule and we have the radicle. This is radicle. And the one which is going on top is called as plumule. Yes, plumule and radicle. Now, the root which we have, the entire root system or the root directly develops from the radicle. It develops directly from the radicle. Develops from the radicle. Now, what about its location? Obviously, it's going to be underground in nature. It is going to be underground in nature. Now, tell me, what is the color of the root? Do you think the roots are green in color? Yes. Is it going to be green color? No. Your roots are usually much more darker or brownish color. So, can I write it's usually non-green shape, non-green color? Non-green. If it is non-green, can it do photosynthesis? Can the roots do photosynthesis? Obviously not. You will say, sir, there is no photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is completely absent in the case of roots. Photosynthesis is absent. Now, if you know typical root, if this is the soil right here, will the roots grow towards the gravity? Will they grow towards the gravity or away from the gravity? Obviously, the roots are growing towards the gravity. So can I tell positively geotropic? Positively geotropic in nature? Yes, it is positively geotropic in nature. Now, is it growing towards the sunlight? This is the sun here. Sun is on top. The root, is it growing towards the sunlight or away from the sunlight? Obviously, roots are growing away from the sunlight. So can I tell negatively phototropic? Negatively phototropic in nature? Yes, negatively phototropic in nature. Now students, in the case of roots, do we notice something called as node and internodal regions? See, in the case of stem, we have nodes and internodes. But in the case of roots, do you find nodes and internodes? The obvious answer is obviously not. The nodes and internodes are absent. Node and internodes as well as internodes are absent, are completely absent in nature. They're completely absent. Nodes and internodes are completely absent. Students, I want everyone to write down the notes with me, because this is the notes which you need to keep on revising throughout the year. And let me tell you, you will be able to get every single detail from the NCERT in this notes. So I want you to follow it very carefully, very carefully. So develops from the radical. It's an underground part, non-green color, no photosynthesis, positively geotropic, negatively phototropic in nature. Nodes and internodes are completely absent here. Done. This much there should be no doubt about a root system. Now what about the functions of the root? What could be the different functions of the root system? Now if I ask you, sir, the main function of the root is absorption of minerals. Yes. What about anchorage? Yes, anchorage also. So let's write down. I want everyone to write down notes. The first one is going to be absorption of water as well as minerals, yes. The second main point is anchorage, Now what is the meaning of anchorage? The meaning of anchorage is that it makes sure the plant is fixed to the soil or to the substratum. The roots make sure the plant is stuck to the root and it doesn't fly off, or whenever there is a high water or when there is a heavy wind, roots will make sure the plants are safe and sound. Okay, that is anchorage. Now sometimes what happens, the roots can also do the function of storage. That all the nutrients which are produced, all the food which is produced in the plant body is stored in the case of roots. It is stored in the case of roots. Now apart from that, it is also responsible for producing certain growth phytohormones. Now these phytohormones are very simple. It could be cytokinins and gibberellins. Cytokines and gibberellins are the phytohormones which are released by the root. Now you will learn more about this in the chapter plant growth regulators, but remember right now the main functions of the root. The main function of the root is absorption of water and minerals, storage, anchorage, and producing certain growth phytohormones. Production of growth hormones. I believe this till here it's very simple. There is no doubts here. That is the function of root. Now students, if you want to understand root truly, you need to explore right now types of root. Now tell me in the chat, what are the different types of root? All of you would tell me, sir, there are 3 types of roots. But I will tell you there are only 2 actually. There are actually only 2 of them. But in your NCERT there are 3 mentioning. So let's learn all the 3. Okay. Let's learn all the different types of roots. The first one is going to be taproot. Now what is this taproot, students? Taproot is a type of root. Taproot is a type of root which develops directly from the radical. Directly from the radical. This is plumule and this is radical. Now if a root is developing directly from the radical, then it is called as taproot. In nature. It's called as taproot. Done. That is going to be taproot. Now the next thing, That is taproot. Now the second type of root. The second type of root is called as fibrous root. It's called as fibrous root. Now listen to me very carefully. Listen to me very carefully, students. Fibrous root is a type of fruit. Fibrous root is a type of fruit which develops from the base of the stem. It develops from the base of the stem. It develops from base of the stem. Let me show you. Let me show you. See, this is a stem. This is a stem. We have nodes here, nodes here. From the base of the stem, here, the lowermost node. From the lowermost node, there will be fibrous roots are arising. Fibrous roots are arising from the base of the stem. That is called as fibrous root. That is called as fibrous root. Okay. That is done. Now third type. The third type is very important to understand. The third type is called as adventitious roots. It's called as adventitious roots. Understand the definition here. Understand the definition here. The adventitious roots. The adventitious roots are the roots. Adventitious roots are the roots which arise from any part other than the radical. Roots which arise. Roots which arise from any plant part other than the radical, other than the radical. For example, see, roots which arise from any part of the plant, any plant part or part of the plant, all right, part of the plant, any part of the plant other than the radical is called as adventitious root. For example, what if a root is arising? What if a root is arising from the leaf? Sir, if this is the leaf, if this is the leaf right here, this is the leaf right here. Now, what if a root is arising from the leaf? That is called as adventitious root. In the case of Bryophyllum, is this radical? No, it is not radical. So it is the type of adventitious root. It's a type of adventitious root. Now, for example, this is a stem. This right here is the stem. Now, from this stem right here, from the nodal regions, if the roots are rising, then it is also called as adventitious roots. So the roots which are arising from any part of the plant, other than the radical, it is going to be called as adventitious root. It is going to be called as adventitious root. Now, the funny part is, what is the definition of fibrous root? The definition of fibrous root is that roots which develop from the base of the stem. Now tell me in the chat, is the fibrous root developing from the radical? Is the fibrous root developing from the radical? Yes or no in the chat? You'll be like, no sir, it is not developing from the radical. So can I call fibrous root? Can I call a fibrous root which is a type of adventitious root? So fibrous root is technically a type of adventitious root. Why? Because fibrous root is a root which is developing from the base of the stem. And definition of adventitious root is that roots which arise from any part of the plant other than the radical. Done. So technically speaking, there are only two types of roots. Roots which develop from the radical, taproot, or roots which develop from any other part, adventitious root. That's all. That's all is the game. Done. Now students, see, direct elongation from radical bears lateral roots. So if you look at a taproot, if you look at a typical taproot, it will have something called as the primary root. Then from the primary root there are lateral branches. Right like this. They are called as secondary root. From this lateral branches, there are also small branches coming out. Small branches coming out. That is called as tertiary roots. They are called as tertiary roots. So in the case of taproot, there is something called as primary root, secondary root, and tertiary root. Done. Now this is your fibrous root. Originate from the base of the stem. Absence of primary root. Usually highly condensed structure present in the case of monocots. So you should remember, students, in this type of taproot is mostly found in the case of dicots, and fibrous root is found in the case of monocots. Now you might be wondering, sir, in the case of monocots, don't they have radicle? If they have radicle, why can't they just grow taproot? Why do monocots grow fibrous root then? You might be wondering. Obviously, a monocot will have a radicle. Students, remember this. All the monocots will have radicle. They have radicle. And in fact, this radicle can give rise to the primary root. It can give rise to primary root. But in the case of monocots, the primary root is sadly short-lived. It is very short-lived. The primary root. It's very short-lived, and eventually the primary root disappears. Now, if the primary root is disappearing, it is replaced by the tuft of root, that is fibrous root. That is the fibrous root. So this primary root is replaced by fibrous root in the case of monocots. Done. Now, adventitious roots arising from the parts other than the radicle is called as adventitious roots. Monster is the example here. Now, students, with that being said, now can we start with the regions of the roots? Obviously, a root will have multiple regions. For example, we have the root cap, region of meristematic activity, region of elongation, region of maturation. All the different types of regions. Now, let's start with the lowermost one. Let's start with the lowermost region, that is going to be the root cap. Let's start with the root cap. The first one. That's going to be root cap. Okay. Now, tell me, root cap where is it located? In the entire root, where do you find the root cap? Obviously, root cap is found in the terminal end. Root cap is found in the terminal end of the root. Terminal end of the root. Okay, sir. Now, what is the function of root cap? The main function of root cap is protection. Now, I told you the main function is protection. But what is it protecting? The root cap right here is protecting nothing but the region of meristematic activity. Right here. The main function of root cap is to protect root apical meristem. Root apical meristem, also called as ram. That is the main function of root cap. Done. Main function of root cap. Now, if this is the soil right here, and the primary root is developing. Now, when the primary root is developing and it is growing under the soil, won't be there a lot of soil particles, and there is a possibility that it can damage the root? Yes. There's a possibility that the root can be damaged here. Yes. To make sure the root doesn't get damaged and the easy penetration of root happens into the soil, there is actually mucilage layer here. A type of mucilage layer on the root cap. It makes sure that roots can easily go into the depths of the soil. Now, the next thing is, what is root cap made up of? Root cap is made up of parenchyma cells. Made up of parenchyma cells. Made up of parenchyma cells. That is the entire for your root cap. So tell me quickly in the chat, what is there any doubt here? And this mucilage layer is technically part of because of Golgi bodies. Because of Golgi bodies. That is root mucilage layer. Done. That is root cap. Now the region above the root cap. Friends, let me tell you, if this is the soil, if this is the soil here, this is the soil here, this region is called as proximal region. Proximal. This region is called as distal region. It's called as distal region. From the soil as a point of view, it's called as proximal region. This is called as distal region. Now, the second region is the region of meristematic activity, or I can just call it RAM. Root apical meristem, also I can call it region of meristematic activity. Region of meristematic activity. Region of meristematic activity. Now students, the first thing is location. The first thing is going to be location here. What is the location of region of meristematic activity? Tell me, can I tell region of meristematic activity is just few millimeter above the root cap? Look at the diagram, look at the diagram. Can I tell the region of meristematic activity right here is it a few millimeters above the root cap? Yes, it has a few millimeters. A few millimeters above the root cap. Above the root cap. Okay, a few millimeters above the root cap. Done. Now, one second. Now, what about in the case of here, what is the main function here? The main function here is going to be cell division. The main function is going to be cell division here. That is region of meristematic activity. It's going to be cell division here. Now, if it's a dividing cell here, in the region of meristematic activity, if it has dividing cells, or if you remember from the chapter, cell chapter, all the dividing cells technically have thin-walled and dense cytoplasm. Yes. So all the cells which are participating in cell division here, the dividing cells, all the dividing cells will have thin walls as well as dense cytoplasm. Dense cytoplasm. That is the few points about root apical meristem. Root apical meristem. Done. Now let's go to region of elongation now. The third one. Region of elongation. Region of elongation. Region of elongation. Now can I tell the region of elongation? The region of elongation is proximal. Here, region of elongation is proximal to the root apical meristem. See, whenever we go this side, it is proximal. I think I wrote somewhere here, right? See here, region of elongation is on the proximal side to the meristematic activity. See, if you go this side, it becomes distal side. This side is proximal side. For proximal side. So, region of elongation is on the proximal side of root apical meristem. Yes, it is on proximal side to root apical meristem. Now, what exactly happens in region of elongation? When we come to region of elongation, it literally says elongation. So here we can see something called as cell elongation, cell elongation, cell elongation and enlargement, as well as enlargement. Cell elongation as well as cell enlargement can be seen here. And because of this very reason, that is cell elongation, enlargement, this region, that is the region of elongation, is responsible. It is responsible for growth of root in length. So if you want is, if a root has to be length, the length of the root has to be increased, then the main work is going to be in the region of elongation. If region of elongation is not working properly, there will be no proper elongation of the root. So proximal region to the ram, cell elongation enlargement, possible, responsible for growth of the root in length. Those are the main functions of region of elongation. Now students, the last region, that is region of maturation. That is the fourth one. First, second, third, fourth. Fourth one is going to be region of maturation. Region of maturation. Now, first of all, when the cells are under, first of all, tell me where is the location? Can I tell region of maturation is on the proximal side? See, always remember this right here is the proximal side. Proximal side. Now, if you look at the diagram, region of maturation is on the proximal side of the elongation. Region of elongation is here. What is present to the proximal side? To the region of elongation, proximal side is maturation. So it is on the proximal side of region of elongation. Region of elongation. Done. Region of elongation. Now, apart from that, if you look at the cells here, all the cells in the maturation, obviously the main word it says is maturation. So obviously all the cells are present in the region of maturation are matured and differentiated. The cells here are matured and differentiated. They are differentiated. Differentiated cells are here. Differentiated cells are here. Now, apart from that, in the region of maturation, do you see certain hair-like structure? Can you see? From the region of maturation, do you see hair-like structure growing out? Yes. That is, from the region of maturation, that is on the epidermis. On the epidermis, we find the presence of root hair. Root hair can be observed. Root hair can be observed. And this root hair right here, is nothing but, this root hair here, right here is, remember, it is exogenous. Extra point, I'm going to write in different, it is exogenous in origin. It is arising from the outside, exogenous in origin, and also it is unicellular in nature. It is also unicellular. Unicellular in nature. Okay, it's exogenous. But students, if you remember, if you go here back here, the lateral roots which I drew here, the secondary roots, also the lateral roots, also called as lateral roots right here. These lateral roots right here are technically developing from the pericycle. Don't worry about this. This we will cover in anatomy chapter. The lateral roots arise from the pericycle, that is endogenous in origin. They are endogenous in origin. Done. Understand that basic difference. Understand the basic difference. This is root hair. This right here is the root hair. Root hair is exogenous and unicellular. Exogenous and unicellular. Now, with that being said, now we will come to the second part. That is root modification. We'll come to the root modification. Okay. Now, tell me in the chat, what is the main function of roots? The main function of roots is absorption of water and minerals, phytohormones, storage sometimes, and sometimes even anchorage. Now, the main question here is, what could be the root modification? Root modification is basically a phenomena in which the roots, right, the roots will do some extra function. They'll do some extra function. And it can be broadly classified into three different types. For example, students, the first one is for storage. is for storage. Storage. Okay, let's go one by one. I'll tell you the other one later. Okay, first one is for storage. Storage. Now, how can they function in storage? How can they function in storage? Students, remember, when it comes to storage, the entire thing can be divided into two parts. Entire storage can be divided into two parts. We have the taproot and we have the fibrous root. Fibrous roots. Now, under taproot, the example. Under taproot, the example is nothing but turnips and carrots. Turnip as well as carrot under taproot. Now, what is the example under fibrous root? The example under fibrous root is sweet potato. Okay. Now that is for storage. Okay, storage, done. Now the second one is for support. Now what if the root can become extra supportive in nature? Second one is for support. Okay. Now here I'll give you a quick example. Okay. The example for storage, we have two examples in your NCERT. The first one is a banyan tree. Now, if all of you have seen a banyan tree, right? This is a simple banyan tree. Now, from this banyan tree, have you ever noticed? Roots will come down this. Small roots will come. Yes, from the banyan tree. These type of roots which come down from the main plant, such roots are called as prop roots. Their main function is providing more stability to the plant, more stability to the entire plant. Done. That is, example is banyan tree, that is prop roots. Now other example, the second example is very simple again. The second example is going to be sugarcane and maize. Now if you look at the sugarcane and maize, this is the plant, this is the sugarcane or the maize. From the lower side of the node, you can see certain roots arising like this. From the lowest node, roots can be seen arising like this. From this lowermost node, you can see roots arising from the lowermost node when it comes to the sugarcane and maize. Now such roots are called as stilt roots. Such roots are called as stilt roots. Now that is in the case of sugarcane and maize. Done. Now the third one, let's look at the third one. The third type is for gaseous exchange. The example which is given in NCERT, is rhizophora. Now for example, now students remember, this rhizophora is mainly found in the marshy areas, or in the types of swampy areas, swampy areas. Okay. Swampy areas, right? It mainly found in the swampy areas, right? Let me draw the diagram for it. For students, I'm not able to see here because if I go very closer, there will be so much of glare. I'm not able to see only. I have to look from one angle if I have written properly. So much of glare is there, right? Now, what exactly happens here? Now, if this is the soil, this is the soil, right? This is the soil. Now, from the soil, sometimes what happens? This is the plant. This is your plants are growing here. Plants are growing here. Okay, plants are growing. Now, what happens sometimes is too many plants. Soil, and we have the plants. Okay, we have the plants. Now, since inside the soil there is very less oxygen. Inside the soil there is very less oxygen, minus O2, very less oxygen. So what happens sometimes is that the roots are fed up. They're like, you are not giving me oxygen only. They are not giving oxygen only. So what happens here is the roots will arise from inside the soil and they'll start growing upwards. This is the roots. These are the roots. Roots will grow from the soil upwards. Those type of roots are called as pneumatophores. These type of roots are called as pneumatophores. And these pneumatophores are always and always, remember, they are negatively geotropic. They are negatively geotropic in nature. Negatively geotropic in nature. Yes. Negatively geotropic in nature. And they're also positively phototropic. Positively phototropic in nature. Because they are growing towards the light now. They are growing towards the light. And these type of roots are called as respiratory roots. We can also call them respiratory roots. Example, rhizophora. Example is rhizophora. Do all of you understand? So in root modification we have, first one is for storage. There we have taproot and fibrous root. Taproot example is turnip and carrot. Fibrous root example is sweet potato. Then we have for under support we have the banyan tree as well as the sugarcane and maize. Banyan tree prop roots, sugarcane and maize stilt roots. Now last one is for gaseous exchange. For gaseous exchange we have the rhizophora. Which is found in your marshy areas, swampy areas, and also in the case of certain halophytic conditions. Halophytic conditions. That is lot of soil. Lot of soil is in the soil. There is so much of salt. Halophyte. So a lot of salt in the soil. That is halophytic in nature. And that is marshy areas or swampy areas. The roots will become negatively geotropic and positively phototropic, and they will come out of the soil. They come out of soil. Why? In search for oxygen. Done. That is your root modification. See here, from banyan tree, can you see? From banyan tree it's coming down. Prop roots. Then we have stilt roots. Can you see? From the base of the lowermost node. Supporting roots are coming out in the case of maize and sugarcane, and they are called as stilt roots. This is your carrot and turnip. Both of them are example for taproot modification. Therefore, taproot. Always, this is the difference you should remember. Sweet potato is going to be fibrous root. It's going to be fibrous root, or we can just call it adventitious root. We can just call it adventitious roots. Modification. Note here also we'll write adventitious only. It's easier to remember. Let's just write the general name. Instead of writing the actual name, just write the general. If not becoming specific, just write adventitious. Because fibrous will be covered. Adventitious roots. Done. This is new metaphors, and asparagus is also a type of taproot modification. See here, we covered this. Storage, carrot, and fusiform, that is radish, not given in syllabus. It was given before, it's gone now. Respiration, new metaphors, and taproot. Under adventitious root, we have storage, sweet potato, and asparagus under adventitious root. Support, we have prop roots and stilt roots. Done. Now look at this question. All of you now. Let's see how many can solve this question now. Time starts now. And all of you quickly smash the like button. If you're able to solve this question now. The negatively geotropic roots produced by the rhizophora are called as, new metaphors, obviously. They're called as new metaphors. Ready for question. The roots that originate from the base of the stem. I made you write the definition. Roots which arise from the base of the stem. That is going to be, is it primary roots, prop roots, lateral roots, or fibrous root? From the base of the stem, it's going to be fibrous root. Here I made it write down, see. Roots which arise from the base of the stem. Where did it go? Here. From the base of the stem, that is going to be fibrous root. It's going to be fibrous root. So answer is 4. Next question. New metaphors occur in halophytes, free-floating hydrophytes, carnivorous plants, or submerged hydrophytes. We just now learned new metaphors are found in marshy areas as well as your mangrove, as well as halophytic. Halophyte is very salt-containing sites. 2018 question, NEET 2018 question, halophyte. Done. Now, sweet potato is a modification of. Stem, adventitious root, tap root, and rhizome. See, all of you know sweet potato is a modification of some root now. We know it is a modification of some root. But is it adventitious root or is it a tap root? Sweet potato. Sweet potato is a modification of adventitious root. Nice. Adventitious root, not tap root. Tap root example is going to be carrot as well as turnip. That is tap root. Sweet potato is going to be adventitious root. Here. All of this will be useful to you when you just read this. Here. Sweet potato, adventitious root. Turnip and carrot, tap root. Done. Look at this question now. Root hair develops from. This is a NEET 2017 question. Root hair develops from the region of maturation, elongation, root cap, meristematic activity. If you know the complete diagram, you will be able to answer this very easily. Root hair develops from the region of maturation. Now, students, with that, your entire root is done. With that, the entire root part, the modification part with questions is done. Clear? Any doubt here? Jai, Ravindrani, Tanuja? Yes? Done. Now students, can we go to the shoot system now? Yes? Can we go to the shoot system? See, root is done, then we have shoot. After shoot, we will go to leaf, right? We'll go to the stem, we'll go to leaf, and we'll go to inflorescence, and today's class is over from that. Okay. Now let's go to the shoot system now. Shoot system. In shoot system, we'll be mainly focusing on, see, this is the root system which is done. The entire thing is called as shoot system. In today's class, we'll be learning about stem and leaf in today's class, as well as the inflorescence, the fruit, fruit and flower in the next class. Fruit and flower in the next class. Okay. Now let's go with stem now. Now tell me, first of all, stem is a part of root or shoot? Tell me. Stem is a part of shoot system. I will write the points only, it will be easier. It is a part of shoot system. Part of shoot system. Yes. It develops from the plumule. It develops from the plumule. Develops from the plumule. Yes, develops from the plumule. Now, is it above the ground or below the ground? Obviously, tell me, sir. It is usually it's above the ground. Unlike root, which is below the ground, this is going to be above the ground. Above the ground. Okay. Now, tell me, what about nodes and internodes? On the stem, if this is the stem here, do you find nodes here? Yes. This part is called as a nodal region. This is a node, and between the two nodes, the gap is there right here. If you look at this gap right here, that is called as internode. That is called as internode. So can I tell for stem, node and internode are present. Node as well as internode is completely present. Node and internode is completely present. Now, stem is usually which color? The stem is usually green to brown color. Yes, it can be green color in the young plants, and same stem can become brown later on because of formation of trunk and secondary growth and everything. But initial stages, the stem is usually green, then it becomes much more brown in color. Now, if it is green in color in the young stage, can it do photosynthesis? Yes, it can do photosynthesis in the young stage. Now, stem. Tell me, is the stem growing away from the gravity? If this is the soil right here, this is the soil. Is it growing away from the gravity or towards gravity? It is growing away from the gravity. Yes. So can I tell it is negatively geotropic in nature? Negatively geotropic, as well as positively phototropic in nature. Yes, it is going to be positively phototropic as well as negatively geotropic in nature. Now, what is the main function? Obviously, functions we'll write separately. We'll understand better there. So, what is the stem? It is a part of shoot system, develops from the plumule. Above the ground, node and internode are present, green color to brown color. If when it is green color, it can do photosynthesis, negatively geotropic and positively phototropic in nature. No doubt here, right? Now, if you look at this is a typical stem. Now, if you look at a typical stem, let me teach you about bud right now only. This is a stem. Now, students, one thing you need to know from today onwards, that if this is the stem right here. We have the nodes here. They are called as the nodal region. Node region. Between the two nodes, the gap between the two nodes here, node 1 and node 2, that is called as internodal region. Yes, it is internode region. And at the same time, at a nodal region, students, we can see the development of leaves. At the nodal regions, we can see the development of leaf. Leaves usually develop at the node. At a node on a stem, on an entire stem, there will be nodes, and at the nodal regions, we can see the development of leaves. At the nodal region. The phyllotaxy will learn later at each node how many leaves can develop. All that we learn in later class. Okay. Done. I hope this part is clear. At the nodal region, we have the development of leaf. Now, students, let me teach you some other concept now. If you look at the nodal region, do you see something called as bud here? Do you see something called as bud here? Yes, bud is here. Now, what is this bud? What is this bud? Let's focus on bud right now. A few points about bud and you will understand better. You'll understand better. What is a bud? Bud is nothing but a compact young shoot. A bud is nothing but a compact young shoot. Bud is a compact young shoot. For example, if you look at any structure of a bud, it somehow resembles like this. Can you see? It is usually covered by, a bud is usually covered by immature young leaves. Immature young leaves. This is the bud here. This is the bud here. Bud. But students, typically bud is of two types. Typically speaking, a bud is of two types. Bud is of two types. Bud is of two types. First, we have the apical bud. We have the apical bud. Then we also have something called as axillary bud. We have something called as axillary bud. Now, what is the difference between apical bud and axillary bud? That is very important to understand. And let me teach you with the help of a simple example. Okay. So, if you look at the typical structure of apical bud first. Let's look at apical bud. Okay. Now, apical bud, if this is the main stem, on top of the main stem, in the growing regions, also called as a shoot apical meristem. In the shoot apical meristem, we have the apical bud here. Apical bud on the growing top. This is also called as shoot apical meristem. Here we find the apical bud. Apical bud. And it is the same apical bud which is responsible for the growth, and also as the apical bud is growing, it is producing leaves. As the apical bud is growing, it is producing the leaves at the nodal regions. As the apical bud is growing. Okay. So as the apical bud grows, leaves are arising. Apical bud. Now students, I want you to understand what is axillary bud. What is axillary bud? This is the stem. On the stem there are nodal regions. Yes, there are nodal regions on the stem. Now here we have at the nodal region right here, we have a leaf. At the nodal region. We have a leaf here at the nodal region. Now this part right here, can you see? This part right here is called as leaf axil. It's called as leaf axil. Now in the leaf axil, some cells are left behind. In the leaf axil, and that some cells were left behind, which end up making the axillary bud. So axillary bud is a bud which is found in the leaf axil. This is the axillary bud here in the leaf axil. And students, remember, it is the same axillary bud. Which can in the future it can give rise to a branch or a flower. It can give rise to a branch or a flower. Okay, clear? It can give rise to a branch or a flower, that is axillary bud, which is found in the leaf axil. At the nodal region, a leaf is growing. Is the result out, students? Is the result out? Okay. I think Shreyas sir will be going live on the channel right now. Let me just talk to Shreyas sir. Are you sure? Or are you joking? Or is it actually out? Tell me really. Tell me, don't joke. Is it actually out? Did sir don't see my comment? I saw all the comments. I didn't see the comment which went up. Principal Dandao. It's not one full lies, no? Full lies. Oh God. I think the final answer key is out, right? The final answer key is out. Don't worry. Whatever happens will happen, right? Whatever happens will happen. Why do you have to worry so much, right? Whatever is going to happen will happen. But if you're preparing for NEET 2025, you don't have to be distracted by all of this, right? You don't have to be distracted by all of this. Yeah, don't worry. Whatever happen will happen. If it is actually out, and if you get good marks, congratulations. If you did not get a good marks, and if you want to be a doctor, we are here to teach you. So let's focus on the studies right now, right? So any doubt in the bud, we have apical bud which grows on the top, and we have the axillary bud which is in the leaf axil, which is present on the leaf axil. Done. Axillary bud. Now, what is the function of a stem? Can anyone tell me what is the main function of a stem? Obviously, the first main function of a stem is spreading out leaf. Yes. The main function of stem is nothing but a leaf arrangement. Let's just write support first because that is the main function. Support. It also bears flowers. You can see flowers here. You can see also fruit here. You can also see leaves here, and also branches on the stem. Branches. Yes, all of this you can see. Can I tell a stem other main function of stem is conduction. Conduction of water and food. Yes, that is with the help of vascular bundles. That is nothing but your xylem and phloem. Xylem and phloem. Yes, that is the main function of a stem. Done. Now, let's study the stem modification, students. Let's study the stem modification. Okay, let's study the stem modification. Now, what is the meaning of stem modification? What is the meaning of stem modification? If a particular stem is able to do other functions apart from the main function, then it is called as stem modification. Now, there are three types of stem modification. One is called as underground stem. We have underground stem modification. Then we also have subaerial type of modification. Then we also have aerial modification. We also have aerial stem modification. Aerial stem modification. Okay, aerial stem modification. Now let's go one by one in detail. I'll be teaching you what are the different types of stem modification one by one. Now, can we start with underground first? Let's start with underground now. Okay, let's start with underground. Start. Now, first of all, tell me if it's an underground stem. If it is a underground stem, which color will it be? Obviously, it is an underground stem. Just like root, it is going to be non-green in nature. The main function is mostly storage in function, and also it can be involved in vegetative reproduction. Yes, vegetative reproduction. Now, students, let's completely divide underground stem now. Let's completely divide underground stem. If you want to divide underground stem, I don't know why it's coming a little down, it has to go up little. If you want to divide underground stem, it can be divided into multiple parts. First, let's go one by one. That is rhizome. First one is rhizome. Okay, rhizome. Now, students, rhizome is a type of stem. It is a type of stem. But rhizome is actually a underground stem. It is a underground horizontal stem. It is a underground horizontal stem. It is a underground horizontal stem. Underground horizontal stem. For example, if you look at this diagram here, can you see this? This is a rhizome. Can you see it is growing horizontally? Yes, it is growing horizontally. Now, but sir, how can you tell is this a rhizome? How can you tell me if it is a rhizome, students? I told you, haven't I told you? A particular stem will have nodes and internodes. Can you see here? Nodal region as well as internodal regions. So a stem will have nodes and internodes, and this rhizome, which is growing horizontally, which is a prostate structure, it has nodes as well as internodes. Yes. Now at the nodal region, can you see the development of leaf? We discussed this in previous slides. At the nodal regions, we can see the development of a leaf. Yes, we can see development of leaf. So can you see here at the nodal region, a leaf is arising? Yes, a leaf is arising. Now, from the stem, from the lower part of the stem, can you see some type of roots also? Yes. We also have here adventitious roots. We also have the adventitious roots here. Adventitious roots here. Can you see? Adventitious roots. Adventitious roots. What are adventitious roots? Adventitious roots are the roots which arise from any other part other than the radical. So there is no radical here, so it is adventitious roots. Done. And this is an example of ginger, which is a rhizome. Example of ginger, in ginger, this is the rhizome, and it is the same rhizome which we take and we make biryani with ginger garlic paste. Yes. Same ginger which is added into tea to make ginger tea. Yes, ginger tea. So this is the example of underground stem modification, rhizome. The first one is the rhizome. Okay, rhizome is the example. Now apart from rhizome, the same, apart from ginger, let me write here, example, ginger. The same rhizome can also be found in turmeric. Yes, turmeric, ginger, and it is the same rhizome which is also found in the case of banana. Yes, the same type of stem modification can be seen in the case of banana. Don't believe me? Look here, look here. This is the structure of the entire banana plant, not banana tree. This right here is a banana plant. Now if you look at this part here, it's called as apparent trunk. Also this here, apparent trunk. This right here is actually not a trunk. It is also called as pseudo trunk. This, can you see this? This is called as pseudo trunk, also called as the fake trunk. Fake trunk, pseudo trunk. But then where is the actual stem then? If this is not the actual stem or the real stem, where is the actual stem of the banana plant? It is underground. Can you see this part here? This part here. This part right here is the underground stem, which is the rhizome. Which is the rhizome. Rhizome is the underground stem modification in the case of banana plant. In the case of banana plant. Okay. Now similarly, students, can you see, one second, let me show you. From this main banana plant, can you see some lateral branches coming out? Yes. Some lateral branches. See, if it is a stem will produce branch. A stem will produce branch. From this stem, branches are coming out. Yes, branches are coming out. From this branches, can you see one more banana plant is arising? From this branches, which is growing obliquely upwards, and a new banana plant is arising from the branches, lateral branches. This right here is called as sucker. This side here is called as sucker, which we will study under subaerial. Subaerial. Okay. The first one was rhizome, which is done. First one was rhizome. Okay. The second one is called as corm. Is called as corm. Now corm is a type of underground stem. It is a type of underground stem. Corm. Corm is a type of underground vertical stem. Underground vertical stem. Now, but you will tell me, sir, all the stems are vertical only. The twist is here. The twist here is this vertical stem is actually very short and it is very condensed. It is very short and it is condensed here. Now, what is the meaning of short and condensed, sir? Show me the diagram here. Can you see? This right here is a corm. It's a very short and condensed stem. A stem will have nodes and internodes. From the nodal region, can we see a leaf? Yes, we can see the leaf. We can see the leaf. We can also see adventitious roots here. Example is 𝐂𝐤. Example is 𝐂𝐤 and 𝐂𝐝. Okay. Go here. Example is going to be 𝐂𝐤. 𝐂𝐤. Okay, 𝐂𝐤 and also 𝐂𝐝. Also 𝐂𝐝. That is corm. That is going to be your corm modification. Corm. Then we have the third one, which all of you love, the chips which all of you eat. That is going to be tuber. Third one is tuber. Third one is going to be tuber. Now, what exactly happens in the case of tuber? See, this is the soil. This is the soil. And underground we have branches. Underground we have lateral branches. Yes, we have lateral branches underground. We have mother tuber here. We have so many lateral branches. Okay, lateral branches. The tip of lateral branch, students, the tip of lateral branch. On the tip of lateral branch, we have a swollen structure. The swollen structure on the tip of the lateral branch is called as tuber. Can you see? This is underground. This is a stem. This is not a root. It's a stem. Remember that, students. It's a stem. This right here is not a root. Branch, this is a stem actually, not a root. Remember, this is a stem. It's not a root. The stem itself is underground. The stem itself is underground here. The stem. From the stem, the terminal portion of a stem. The terminal portion of the stem is called as tuber. It's called as tuber here. This right here is tuber. Tuber. That is, example is potato. See here. This is banana plant. See here. This is the structure of tuber. A tuber will have, it's a stem modification. A tuber will have some type of bud. Yes, I told you axillary bud. From the axillary bud, we can see the development of new plant also. Yes, see here. This is the structure of your potato plant. This is the same stem. The same stem is also underground. It is not the roots. It is not the roots. From the stem itself, the terminal portion of a stem is called as a bud. It's called as tuber. It is called as tuber, and that's how potato is grown. That's how potato is grown, from the stem portion. And students, this bud here, can you see? Can you see one more bud here? Bud here. The bud in the potato is also called as the eye. It's also called as the eye of the potato. The eye of the potato is also called as a bud. And if you remove the bud and grow it in a plant, grow it into a soil, it will automatically grow into an entire plant. Automatically grow into an entire plant. That is a bud. Okay. Now that was tuber. That was tuber. The last one is called as bulb. The last one is called as bulb. So if you know the typical structure of onion, in your onion, when you're trying to cut an onion, in this below part, do you see one white color part, white color region? When you're trying to cut an onion, do you see some white part here, which you cut and throw? Which you cut this part and throw. When you cut onions, you will see some white color part which you say it has cancer and usually cut it and throw it off. That right here is actually the stem. The stem of the onion. This white color part, you see, right? It is the reduced stem. It is the reduced stem right here. This part, when you see small part, that is actually the reduced stem. That is onion. That is same stem is also found in the case of garlic. In the case of garlic also. Above we have the leaf development and everything. Leaf development. That right here is the reduced stem. Reduced stem of the stem modification case of onion. And remember students, all of these modifications are what? All of these modifications are actually underground modification. They are underground modification. Underground modification. Remove that point very well. They are underground modification. Okay. This right here is the reduced stem. Reduced stem. Here we have roots coming from here. Roots are coming from here. We have the bulb on top. That is going to be the leaf modification on top. Leaf modification of top. So rhizome, tuber, corm and bulb. Underground stem modification. Now students, now we go to subaerial. Now we go to subaerial modification. Now just like how in underground modification we have 4 types, in subaerial modification also we have 4 types. We have 4 types. The first one is called as runner. The first one is called as runner. Now what exactly happens in case of runner? In the case of runner it's very simple. In the case of runner it's very simple. This is the soil. This is the soil. On top of this soil, we have a lateral branch coming out. We have a lateral branch like this. We have a lateral branch. This is the lateral branch. That branch is basically a type of stem. It's a stem, lateral branch, right? Lateral branch. Now on this lateral branch, do you find nodes and internodes? Yes sir. On this branch we can see certain nodes. We can see certain nodes. This right here is the node. Now students, listen to me very carefully. From this node right here, from this nodal regions right here, from this nodal region right here, we can see the development of roots. Roots are coming out. And we can also see the development of shoot. We can see the development of shoot. Shoot and root are developing from the lateral branch from the stem. That is called as runner. That is called as a runner. The example is obviously strawberry. Strawberry. Example is going to be strawberry oxalis. Strawberries oxalis. Strawberry oxalis and also the grasses. Also the grasses. That is the example of runners. Let me erase this lateral branch, otherwise no space will be not there. This is the lateral branch right here on top. For example, look at this diagram. Can you see? This is the lateral branch, and at the nodal regions, we have the development of shoot, and we'll also have development of roots here. Development of roots will be also happening. Root and shoot are developing from the lateral branch. Every single time there is a node. This is the node here. This right here is the node. Nodal regions are branches arising. Branches arising. That is runner. Now the second type. Now runner is done. The second one is stolon. Second one is stolon. Now stolon is very simple. This is the soil. This is the soil. Your stolon is similar. The stolon is similar to runner. But the main difference between your runner and stolon is that at the nodal region, the stem is, this is the nodal region. At the nodal region, we have the development of a particular type of branch. But the particular type of branch will also go underground and it will make like a sine wave. It's looking like a sine wave, right? It makes an arch. It makes an arch here and it grows under the soil and comes up again. And again at the nodal region, it will start to grow roots. It will start to grow roots at nodal region. But the only difference between runner and stolon is that runner is always going flat and stolon is going like a sine wave. It is growing like a sine wave here. That is your stolon. Example is very simple, mint and jasmine. Example is mint and jasmine. Mint as well as jasmine. Mint as well as jasmine. Mint and jasmine. That is stolon. That is going to be stolon. The third one is even more interesting. Okay, that is stolon. The third one is going to be offset. The third one is going to be offset. The offset is mainly found in the aquatic plants. It is mainly found in the aquatic plants. Aquatic plants. Let me show you the diagram for this. This is your this is your stolon. Can you see? This is your stolon. From here, mint plant, one is there. It is making a curve. Stolon is there, and it is going down again. It is coming up again. That is the example of stolon. But the example for offset, if you look at the offset, the example is Pistia and Eichhornia. Pistia and Eichhornia, it is very similar. That is, we have the lateral branch, we have the nodal regions. At the nodal regions, we have development of root and development of shoot. But the main difference here is very simple. The main difference here is going to be the internodes are very short here. The internodes are very short here. If the internodes are very short, they look like they're very close to each other. And you will see something called as, can you see this? This part? That part is, looks like a flower, right? Looks like a flower. That is called as rosette of leaves. Rosette of petals. Or can I say rosette of leaves? Rosette of leaves. This part here. Rosette of leaves. And if you can see the root part here, lot of bunch of roots. This is called as tuft of roots. Tuft of roots. So in the case of offset, we have short internodes. It is mainly found in the case of aquatic plants. It has a tuft of roots and rosette of leaves. Rosette of leaves here. Done. That is going to be your offset. Now what about in the case of sucker? I'll just write it here, so all of you can have a reference. All of you can have a reference here. Last one is sucker. Sucker is mainly found in the case of your chrysanthemum, banana, pineapple and all those plants. See here, banana, pineapple, even chrysanthemum also. If you can see in the case of chrysanthemum here, right here, this is the lateral branch. Lateral branch is growing, then it is going obliquely upwards and the new plant is coming up. Did we see a similar type in the case of banana? In the case of banana also, can you see, this is the subaerial stem. It is growing under the soil, lateral branch and upwards again. And all of these types of subaerial stems are mainly required, the main function is vegetative propagation. Main function is vegetative propagation. Then that is sucker, stem subaerial modification. Now students, let's come to the last part, that is aerial modification. Aerial modification. In aerial modification, we have a couple of types. For example, first one is called as phylloclad. First one is called as phylloclad. Phylloclad. Now what exactly happens in phylloclad, students? What exactly happens in phylloclad? In the case of phylloclad, the stem can become green and very fleshy. The stem can become green and fleshy. It can become green and fleshy and it can do photosynthesis. It can do photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. It can become green, fleshy and it can do photosynthesis. There are two types here. There are two types of phylloclad. Two types. The first type is and second type. The first type is called as opentia. Opentia. Yes, opentia. The other one is called as euphorbia. Other one is called as euphorbia. Now, what is the main difference? The main difference is in the stem shape. For example, here we have a very flat stem. We have a very flat stem when it comes to opentia. A nice flat stem in the case of opentia. Now, what about euphorbia? In the euphorbia, we have cylindrical stem. Cylindrical stem. Cylindrical stem in the case of euphorbia. Cylindrical stem. Here we have very flat stem in the case of opentia. But what is the main function? The main function is photosynthesis. The main function is going to be photosynthesis. Photosynthesis of phylloclad. That is the aerial modification. Phylloclad. You can see here, phylloclad. Now, apart from that, we also have tendrils. Now, what exactly is tendril and how is it growing from? Where is it even coming from, tendril? Listen to me very carefully. Now, this is your stem. This is the stem. Yes, sir. A stem will have nodal regions. Many nodal regions. Yes. From this nodal region, did I not tell you that there will be development of a leaf? Yes, there will be a development of a leaf from the nodal region. Yes. Now, in the nodal region, did we discuss something called as axillary bud? This is called as axillary bud. Now, students, listen to me very carefully. In the case of stem, this axillary bud right here, is modified. Oops. This axillary bud right here is modified into a tendril. And remember, students, the tendril in the case of your stem modification is much more branched. It's much more branched in the case of stem modification. Tendril is much more branched here. That is tendril. That is aerial stem modification. Tendril, that is development of axillary bud for protection, for support. Okay. The main example is cucurbitas. That is cucumber, pumpkin. That is cucumbers, pumpkins, watermelons, as well as grapevines. This is the example of tendrils. See, from the axillary bud, it is modifying. Now, what about in the case of thorns? What about thorns? Thorns is very simple again. Thorns, what is happening? The same thing is happening. The same thing, that is leaf axillary bud. In the case of thorns, the axillary bud is developing into a brown pointy structure. That is for protection. So, development of axillary bud into a thorn is called as your aerial stem modification. That is thorn. Here, aerial stem modification. Example for thorn is nothing but bougainvillea. Here, bougainvillea. Thorns, can you see thorns here? Bougainvillea as well as citrus. Citrus and bougainvillea are the examples for thorn modification. Tendril modification, we have the cucumber, pumpkins, watermelon and grapevine, as well as grapevine. When we have phylloid example, we have opentia as well as euphorbia. Subaerial modification, we had the sucker, banana, chrysanthemum and pineapple. Under offset, we had pistia and eichhornia. Under stolon, we had the mint and jasmine. Under runner, we have the strawberry as well as the grasses. As well as oxalis. That is subaerial as well as aerial modification. So this is what we learned till now. This is what we learned till now. Can you see? Underground, rhizome, ginger, turmeric, as ginger, turmeric and banana, tuber, colocasia, zamikand. Sorry, tuber is potato, corm, we had zamikand as well as your colocasia, bulb was the onion. In runner we learned just now about your different strawberry oxalis, stolon we learned about mint and jasmine, offset pistia and icornia, sucker, chrysanthemum, banana and pumpkin. Tendrils we learned about your pumpkins as well as cucurbita, grapevine, everything. Thorns we learned about citrus as well as bougainvillea. Phylloclad we learned about cactus as well as euphorbia. Photosynthetic stem, phylloclad. Students, all of these examples as well as the entire flow chart should be on your back of your head. Back of your head, every single detail should be there. Similar type of modification we learned in the root, every single thing should be back of your head. Taproot, fibrous root modification. You should also have in the back of your head for support, prop root, still roots. We should also have the back of your head support for your gas exchange. New metaphors are found in rhizophora. So all of these examples are the key for you to answer the questions. Without no examples, no marks. For example, look at this question now. Look at this question. Which of the following statement is not correct? It's also a PYQ. Rhizome is a convex form of stem. Yes. Apical bud in rhizome is always remains above the ground. Apical bud. Rhizome is aerial and no distinct nodes and internodes. Rhizome is thick, prostate and branched. Let's see the answer now. Students, all of you know rhizome is a stem modification. And in the case of stem, we will always have nodes and internodes. Here it says rhizome is aerial, but we know rhizome is underground. We know rhizome is underground. And it will have nodes and internodes will be present. Here it says no internodes. So, not correct as incorrect is option number 3. Look at this question from NEET 2017. In bougainvillea, thorns are a modification of. Direct question with the help of example. Direct question with the help of example. In bougainvillea, thorns are modification of stipules, adventitious root, stem and or leaf. Now all of you know it is a direct modification of axillary bud, but axillary bud is a part of your stem. So we learn it under stem only. So stem modification. The stem modifies into flat green organ performing the function of leaf known as, that is, it can do photosynthesis. Phyllodes, phylloclad, scales, cladodes. Students, phyllodes we have not taught you yet because that is going to be in the leaf, but only thing I have taught you is phylloclads right now. So remember that. Phylloclad is a cactus and opuntia are the examples. Cactus and opuntia are the examples here. Not cactus, sorry. Opuntia as well as euphorbia. Look at this question now. In ginger, vegetative propagation occurs through. Vegetative propagation occurs through the case of ginger. We just now learned it's an example of rhizome. It is an example of rhizome. Next question. An example of edible underground stem. A stem which you can eat. Carrot is a root. Seed, it is a root, adventitious root modification, but potato is a stem modification which you can eat. So answer is obviously option number 4. Now with that, students, your stem part is also over, done and dusted. First we finished root, then we finished stem. Now till now I believe there should be no doubt regarding any part of the syllabus because I am trying to take as slow as possible because we do have time right now. We do have time, and this is the time which you utilize to understand and make your notes, right? All of you make your notes. So I believe all of you are making your notes and writing with me, and if you feel that yes, you missed out a point anywhere, you can always watch the replay and get the point written down in your notebook. Okay, now if you want all of these notes, where do you get these notes? All of these notes can be given on the, I'll be sending in my Telegram channel. On the Telegram channel, I will be sending all of this notes here. All of these notes will be given on the Telegram channel. Okay, done. Okay, now let's go to leaves. Let's go to leaves right now, and let's discuss one by one. Let's discuss one by one. What do you think leaf is? What do you think leaf is, students? What do you think leaf is? What do you think leaf is? Is it a reproductive organ? Is it a reproductive organ? No, leaf is not a reproductive organ. But is leaf a photosynthetic organ? Yes, it is a photosynthetic organ. Can I say it is a photosynthetic part? Yes, it is a photosynthetic part of the plant. Part of the plant. Photosynthetic part. Yes, it is a photosynthetic part. But how are the leaves produced? Leaves are produced by the activity of. Leaves are produced by the activity of shoot apical meristem. I told you, as the shoot apical meristem is growing, leaves are produced, right? Acropetal succession, leaves are produced, SAM. But where are the leaf present? Leaf are present on the nodal region. Leaf are present, they're present on the node region, at the nodal region, right? On the nodal region, we can see the development of a leaf. Development of a leaf at the nodal region. Development of leaf. Done. Leaf. Now, right, what is the development of leaf? So if there is one leaf here, it's coming from here, extend the stem. Node here, we have a leaf coming here. Now, if you look at the leaf on the top and leaf at the bottom, tell me which leaf is younger leaf? Which leaf is younger leaf? Obviously, young leaves are at the top. Young leaves are at the top here. Yes. And old leaves at the bottom. And old leaves at the bottom. Old leaves at the bottom. This type of arrangement where we have young leaves on the top and old leaves at the bottom, this is called as acropetal succession. It is called as acropetal succession. Acropetal manner. Acropetal succession. Where young leaves on the top, old leaves at the bottom. This is called as acropetal succession. Okay. Done, done, done. Now, look at the leaf shape. Look at the leaf shape. This is your typical leaf. This is your typical leaf. A leaf will be growing at the nodal region. So this is the node. Yes, this is the node here. On the node we have the stalk of the leaf. The stalk of the leaf is called as petiole. Stalk of the leaf is called as petiole. We have in the leaf axil, we have the axillary bud here. Yes, axillary bud. We also have the base of the leaf. The base of the leaf is called as leaf base. Leaf base, yes. Now in the leaf we also have some immature leaf. In the leaf base we have immature leaf. On the leaf base we have certain immature leaves. That is called as stipules. It's a young leaf, not immature, young leaf. That is called as stipule. Now the entire leaf blade is called as lamina. Leaf blade is called as lamina. Leaf blade is called as lamina here. This entire thing is called as leaf blade. Now in this leaf blade, in the central part we will have the midrib. This center part is called as the midrib here, and we have the veins. We have the veins here. This is a typical structure of a leaf. Typical structure of a leaf. Now let's focus on the leaf base now. Let's focus on the leaf base. There are actually different types of leaf base which you need to address. Different types of leaf base. See here. First we have at the leaf base with stipules. If stipules are present, it's called as stipulate. Now if the leaf base is swollen, if the leaf base gets swollen, it's called as pulvinous leaf base. Can you see here? The leaf base is swollen here. Swollen. And this swollen leaf base is called as pulvinate leaf base, and it is mostly found in the case of legumes. In the case of legumes. Now sometimes what happens is the leaf base can completely or partially cover the stem. It can completely or partially, it's mostly partially only, partially cover the stem. That is leaf base. If leaf base completely or partially covers the entire stem, it is called as sheathing leaf base. It is called as sheathing leaf base, and this sheathing leaf base is mostly found in the case of monocots. Monocots. Leafing sheath base is found in the form of monocots. Leaf blade is the entire part. Leaf blade is also called as lamina. It's also called as the lamina, is called as the leaf blade. Okay. Leaf blade. This is called as swollen pulvinate in the case of legumes. This is a type of leaf bases. Types of leaf bases. Now what is venation then? What is venation? Venation is nothing but arrangement of leaves, is nothing but arrangement of veins, arrangement of veins and veinlets on the leaf. Arrangement of veins and veinlets on the leaf is called as venation. It's called as venation. That is the definition of venation. But we have two types of venation. We have two types of venation. One is called as parallel venation, other one is called as reticulate venation. All of you are aware of that, right? All of you are aware of that. Simple thing. First we have reticulate venation. We have the reticulate venation and we have the parallel venation. Parallel venation. Now what happens in reticulate venation? In reticulate venation, this is a typical flower, typical leaf. This is a leaf margin, entire. These are the veins. Can you see the veins and the veinlets? The veins are in a network. When the veins are in the network, they are in the network. That is called as, when veins are in a network, that is called as reticulate venation network. Now what about parallel venation? In the case of parallel venation, all the veins and veinlets will be in a parallel fashion. They will be in a parallel fashion, and this is mainly found in the case of monocots. Monocots. Now what about reticulate venation? Reticulate venation is mostly found in the case of dicots. In the case of dicots. That is the difference between venation. That is the difference between venation. Veins here are running parallel. Veins here are forming a network. See here. Network are forming. Dicots. In the case of monocots, all the veins are running parallelly. All the veins are running parallelly. Now students, let's understand. I want everyone to understand the types of leaf. I want everyone to understand the different types of leaves. Yes, there are different types of leaves. Listen to me very carefully now. Listen to me very carefully. What are types of the leaf? If you want to broadly classify, there are only two types of leaves. One is called as simple leaf, other one is called as compound leaf. Okay, simple leaf and compound leaf. Here we'll draw simple leaf as well as compound leaf. I will draw later that space management will be different. Let's draw first simple leaf. Now what happens in simple leaf, students? What happens in simple leaf? This is your entire leaf. This is a leaf here. This is the leaf, yes. This is the leaf. This also is the leaf. This also is a leaf here. Midribs are, these are veins. Yes, these are the veins. These two are type of simple leaf. Now, but what is happening in simple leaf, students? In simple leaf, if you look closer, in the simple leaf, the incisions, do you see this is called incision. This is called as incisions. Incision. Now this middle part is called as midrib. Midrib. Yes. This is called as midrib. Right. Now this is called as incision. It's called as incisions. Now if you look at the case of simple leaf, the incisions do not touch the midrib. The incision do not touch the midrib. Do not touch the midrib here. They do not touch the midrib. They are on their own. Incisions are not touching the midrib here. Incisions are not touching the midrib here. Now what about compound leaf? What about the compound leaf? What about compound leaf? Now listen to me very carefully. In the case of compound leaf, we have the midrib. Midrib is here. All the incisions are actually touching the midrib. Can you see? All the incisions are touching the midrib, and we end up getting the compound leaf. We end up getting the compound leaf because all the incisions are touching the midrib here. All the incisions are touching the midrib. Incisions are touching the midrib here. Touching midrib. Midrib here. All the incisions are touching midrib here in the case of compound leaf. And in the case of compound leaf, each individual one is called as leaflet here. It's called as leaflet. It's called as leaflet. And do you see it has a branch here, middle midrib? The middle part of the compound leaf is called as rachis. It's called as rachis. It's called as rachis here. Okay, that is the midrib. Midrib is called as rachis here. So that is the difference between simple leaf and compound leaf. In the case of simple leaf, the incisions are not touching the midrib, simple leaf. But in the case of compound leaf, all the incisions are touching the midrib, as well as each individual leaf is called as leaflet here. And the middle part which holds all the different leaflets is called as a rachis. It's called as a rachis here. That is a rachis. Done? Tell me, any doubt here? Leaflets are attached to rachis here. Done. That is the difference between simple leaf and a compound leaf. Now students, if you look under NCERT, there are different types of compound leaf. Actually, there are two types of compound leaf in your NCERT. Two types of compound leaf. One is called as pinnately compound leaf. One is called as pinnately compound leaf. Pinnately compound leaf. The other one is called as palmately compound leaf. Palmately compound leaf. Palmately compound leaf. Okay. Now, what is this pinnately compound leaf and palmately compound leaf? Let's understand with the help of a diagram. This is the rachis. On the rachis or rachis, we have the leaflets. Yes, we have the leaflets on the rachis. Leaflets are present on the rachis. Now students, this rachis right here, is actually attached to the petiole. It is attached to the petiole. Petiole is the stalk of the leaf. This right here is the petiole. And this petiole is attached at the nodal region of a stem. This is the stem. We have the node here. Node, internode, node, internode. This is the nodal region. And we have the petiole here. This is the petiole. This is the petiole. So petiole is attached to the rachis. Rachis is attached to the leaflets. This is the leaflets. Leaflets. This is the leaflets. So leaflets are attached to the rachis. Rachis are attached to the petiole. Petiole is attached at the nodal region of a stem. That is a pinnately compound leaf. That is a pinnately compound leaf. Now what about palmately compound leaf, students? Palmately compound leaf is very simple. Palmately compound leaf is very simple. Palmately compound leaf is very simple. All of the leaflets are directly attached to the petiole. Are directly attached to the petiole here. Are directly attached to the petiole. That is your palmately compound leaf. Palmately compound leaf. The example given in your NCERT. The example given in your NCERT for pinnately compound leaf is going to be neem. Example is going to be neem here. The example of palmately compound leaf is going to be silk. Example is going to be silk cotton. Example is going to be silk cotton. Silk cotton. That is the difference between pinnately compound leaf and palmately compound leaf. Done. The next thing you need to understand, this is your simple leaf. All the incisions are not touching the midrib. Incisions are not touching the midrib. This is an example of a simple leaf. Simple leaf. Pinnately, palmately. Now students, remember, palmately compound leaf is also growing. No. Palmately compound leaf. Now, next thing you need to understand is phyllotaxy. Next thing you need to understand is what is phyllotaxy here. Phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is nothing but arrangement of leaf. That's all. Phyllotaxy is nothing but arrangement of leaf. Let me write it down for you, all of you here. Is this nothing but arrangement of leaf? It is nothing but arrangement of leaf. Arrangement of leaves here. Okay, that is phyllotaxy. Now, in phyllotaxy we have alternate, opposite, and word. Now, what is the difference between all of them? Let's understand with the help of a diagram only. First, let's write down. Then I'll teach you with the help of a simple diagram. Easily we can draw now, right? Now first alternate. Let's understand alternate. Here a single in the case of alternate, a single leaf at each node. A single leaf at each node. Understand the diagram. Understand the diagram here. This is the stem. This is the nodal region. Nodal region. At each node, you'll only find one leaf. This is the node, so only one leaf here. Only one leaf here. This is a node, we have only one leaf here. Only one leaf here. This is a node, we only have one leaf here. One leaf. One more node, only one leaf. So in the case of alternate phyllotaxy, at each nodal region, you'll find only and only a single leaf. Only and only a single leaf at each node. Examples are very important. China rose, mustard, and sunflower. Example is going to be China rose, China rose, mustard, and sunflower, as well as sunflower. These are the three examples of alternate phyllotaxy. Now, in the case of what about in the case of opposite? In the case of opposite, a pair of leaves at each node. Understand the help of diagram. This is the stem. This is the stem. A stem will have nodes. Yes. At each node, students, at each node you will find leaves. Two leaves, a pair of leaves. And everything is in acropetal succession. Acropetal succession. At each nodal region you will find leaves. At each nodal region you will find a pair of leaves at each nodal region. Example is guava and calotropis. Example is going to be guava and calotropis. Guava and calotropis. Now what about world one? What about world? Students, at world, at each node, at each nodal region, at each node, more than 2 leaves are present. More than 2 leaves are present at each node. For example, this is the stem. This is the stem. We have node here, and we have node here. Okay. Now at each node you will find more than 2 leaves. This is different from palmately compound leaf. Understand that. This is phyllotaxy. At each node you'll find more than two leaves at each node. Here. At each node you'll find more than 2 leaves here. That is called as world estivation. It's called as world estivation. Example is Allistonia. Example is Allistonia. Example is Allistonia. Allistonia. That is the difference between your alternate, opposite, as well as world types of arrangement of leaf. In alternate, at each node a single leaf. In opposite, at each node a pair of leaf. And in the case of world estivation, at each node there will be more than 2 leaves. Done. That is phyllotaxy. See here, example of alternate: hibiscus, mustard, and sunflower. Guava and calotropis. Opposite world is Allistonia. Now students, you need to understand, yes, a leaf main function. The main function of a leaf is nothing but a photosynthetic organ. Yes, photosynthetic organ. A same leaf can also help in other functions. So if a leaf is able to do other functions apart from the main function, then it is called as modification. For example, the first type of modification is for support. Second is protection. First one is for support. That is, in the case of leaf, a leaf will get converted to tendrils. And friends, remember, here the tendrils are not branched. They are not very branched in compared to stem. Example is pea plant. Example is here. Example is going to be pea plant. The second one is protection. That is, we learned in the starting of the class today. We learned in the starting of the class that is, a leaf gets modified into a spine, into spines. Example is cactus. Example is cactus. Example is cactus. Now, the third one, that is protection. The third one is storage. The third one is storage. Yes, a leaf can also provide storage. A leaf can also provide storage, and all of you eat it. And all of you eat the storage. All of you eat the storage part. That is nothing but a leaf can become very fleshy. A leaf can become very fleshy. The example is onion leaf, students, onion leaf. The leaf onion which you eat, right? That is basically leaf. Example is onion, as well as garlic, which you eat. That is the example of storage. Now next one is petiole. Now let's not look into entire leaf. The petiole can become photosynthetic. The fourth one, the petiole can become photosynthetic. Petiole is photosynthetic now. Petiole is becoming photosynthetic. That is, it's called as phylloid. It is called as phylloid. See, remember phylloclad, that was stem modification. Cactus and euphorbia. This is phylloid. This is going to be phylloid here. Right? It's going to be phylloid. And this phylloid is seen in the case of Australian acacia. Australian acacia. Example is going to be Australian acacia. Australian acacia is going to be the example. Australian acacia. Okay. Australian acacia. See, that is, protection is done, support is done, protection is done, storage is done, petiole is becoming photosynthetic, that is also done. Now other things which I have already discussed, other ones we have already discussed actually. That is, leaf base can become, leaf base can also get changed. We have already learnt it. That is, it can become swollen. That is pulvinous. That is pulvinous leaf base. Pulvinous leaf base, or leaf base can become low. Sheathing leaf base. Sheathing leaf base. In sheathing leaf base, what do we have? That is, in the case of monocots, a complete stem is covered or partially covered by a leaf. Yes, we are sheathing leaf, we have covered all this. And we have also covered this one you know. The other one is for, last one is pitcher plant. Last one is pitcher plant. Pitcher plant, all of you know, that is, it closes on top, no? That and Venus flytrap. That is, leaf is getting modified. A leaf is getting modified. This is tendrils in the case of pea. Here we have cactus for protection. Here we have onion. You see, onion, the bulb which you eat, the leaf, it's called as fleshy leaf which you eat. The outer part which you remove is called as scaly leaf. Scaly leaf is removed. You remove the scaly leaf, and inside which we have the fleshy leaf which you eat. Leaf modification. This is petiole. The petiole can become photosynthetic in nature. Australian acacia. This is your Nepenthes, pitcher plant. This also is a leaf modification. Is a leaf modification. Venus flytrap, leaf modification. And students, with that, the entire leaf modification is over. With that, the entire leaf modification is done and dusted. Yes, done and dusted. Now students, let's go to the last part of today's class. The last part of today's class is going to be, the last part is inflorescence. It's going to be inflorescence. Now I'll be teaching you what exactly is inflorescence and different two types of inflorescence, that is cymose and racemose inflorescence. After that, we'll be solving a lot of questions, and that is the end of today's class. Okay, so let's start with inflorescence now. Let's start with inflorescence. Okay, inflorescence. Now, all of you know, I've been teaching you from today, this right here is called as the stem. We have the stem here. Stem has multiple nodes. This is the node, nodal region. Now on the nodal region we have development of leaf. On the nodal region we have the development of leaf. We have development of leaf on the nodal region. Yes, this is a petiole. If petiole is present, petiole. If petiole is absent, apetiolate. Okay. Now this is the leaf. Now this is the leaf axis. We have the leaf axis here, and we have the axillary bud here. We have the axillary bud right here. Now listen to me very carefully. Now what happens in the case of inflorescence? What happens in the case of inflorescence? In the case of inflorescence, this axillary bud can give rise to a branch. I've told you previously, axillary bud can give rise to a branch, or it can give rise to a flower. It's giving rise to a branch here. Okay. So this is a branch. It will also have nodal regions. Yes. Also have nodal regions. Nodes are present. Now, what is interesting here is at the nodal regions here. At the nodal regions right here, we have the development of flowers instead of leaf. We have the development of flowers at the nodal region. We have the development of flowers at the nodal region. Development of flowers at the nodal region, that is called as inflorescence. That is called as inflorescence. And do you see the stalk here in the middle part? Here. The stalk here is called as inflorescence axis. It is called as inflorescence axis. Inflorescence axis. It's called as inflorescence axis, and also it's called as peduncle. It's called as peduncle. It's also called as peduncle. Okay, peduncle. That is stalk of the inflorescence. Stalk of the inflorescence. Now here, the basic definition which all of you know, that is arrangement of flower. Arrangement of flower on floral axis is called as inflorescence. It's called as inflorescence. It's called as inflorescence. Now, what is this floral axis? What is this floral axis here, which you're talking about here? The floral axis which you're talking about here is nothing but the inflorescence axis. So, arrangement of flowers on the inflorescence axis is called as inflorescence. It is called as inflorescence. Done. That is called as inflorescence. Arrangement of flowers on the inflorescence axis or peduncle is called as inflorescence. Now here at the nodal region, you should note here at the nodal region here, we have the development of flower here. Flower. Now what about internode? The internode is very condensed here. The internode is very condensed. It is very condensed here. It is very short and condensed, and that's why you can see the beautiful flowers. You can see the beautiful flowers of the inflorescence. Nodal region is the flower development here. Internode is very condensed here. Okay, internode is very condensed here. That is your inflorescence. That is your inflorescence. Now, based on that, inflorescence can be of two types. Inflorescence can be of two types. We have racemose inflorescence, as well as we have cymose inflorescence. We have the cymose inflorescence. Now, what exactly happens in racemose inflorescence? Listen to me very carefully. In the case of racemose inflorescence, the main floral axis or the inflorescence axis, we say, right? The inflorescence axis or the floral axis, here, this one. inflorescence axis or the floral axis will keep on growing. It will keep on growing in the case of racemose. In the case of racemose, the main axis or the inflorescence axis, the main axis will keep on growing. The main axis will keep on growing. Main axis will keep growing. Keep growing here. It will keep on growing. And can I call it unlimited growth now? Can I also call it unlimited growth? Yes, it can also be called as unlimited growth. Now here, how are the flowers arranged? How are the flowers arranged here? See here, this is the main stem. We have the branching here. This is the floral axis, main axis of floral axis. On this floral axis we have branching. At the nodal region, we have the development of flowers here. Development of flowers. Remember, flowers cannot be terminal. It should be always be in the corner, like the sideways. It cannot in the axil. If flowers cannot be in the terminal, then it will become cymose. Okay. This type of arrangement where we have the young flowers on the top. Can you see? Young flowers on the top and old flowers at the bottom. Old flowers at the bottom and young flowers on the top. This is called as acropetal succession. It's called as acropetal succession. Acropetal succession. Young flowers at the top, old flowers at the bottom. Old flowers at the bottom. That is the racemose inflorescence. That is the racemose inflorescence. Okay. Now let's come to cymose. Let's come to cymose inflorescence now. Let's come to cymose inflorescence. Now what exactly happens in the case of cymose inflorescence? This is the main axis. This is the main axis, also called as inflorescence axis. Also called as your inflorescence axis here. Here, can you see? This is the inflorescence axis. Inflorescence axis. Now in the case of cymose, inflorescence, the main axis will terminate with the flower. The main axis will terminate with a flower here. And can I call it main axis terminates with a flower. With the flower here. It is limited growth. Limited growth can be seen here. Limited growth. How are the flowers arranged? How are the flowers arranged? Flowers are arranged in a main axis. In the case of cymose inflorescence, it is terminating with a flower, and older flowers are at the top. Older flowers are at the top and young flowers are at the bottom. Can I tell? Old flowers at the top and young flowers at the bottom. Young flowers at the bottom, old flowers at the top. And this type of arrangement is called as basipetal. It's called as basipetal arrangement. Basipetal arrangement. So here we have something called as acropetal arrangement. Here we have the acropetal arrangement. Acropetal arrangement here, where we have young flowers at the top, old flowers at the bottom. Here we have the basipetal arrangement, where we have the older flowers at the top and younger flowers at the bottom. This is called as cymose inflorescence and racemose inflorescence, students. Cymose and racemose inflorescence. So now let's solve some questions now. This is your racemose, young at the top, old at the bottom. Old at the top, young at the bottom. This is your cymose. This is cymose inflorescence. Cymose inflorescence. Done. This is solitary cyme. In the case of solitary cyme, it always ends with a single flower. Solitary cyme. Read the question. Read the question, all of you. And if you're new, I want everyone to quickly mark your attendance by liking the video. Students, do you realize the amount of notes you're getting right now? You're making the notes, and also you're like able to understand the concept and everything, you're able to solve the questions also in one class only. Do you realize that? Identify the correct statement. The leaflets are modified into pointed hard thorns in the case of citrus and bougainvillea. Correct set of statements. You have to suppose tell me which is the correct set of statements. This statement is correct or wrong? Tell me first of all. Is this statement correct or wrong? The leaflets are modified into hard thorns in case of citrus and bougainvillea. It's going to be completely wrong statement. Wrong statement. Why is it wrong statement? Because remember, leaflets are protection is in the case of cactus. In the case of citrus and bougainvillea, this is supposed to be stem. In the case of citrus and bougainvillea, it is supposed to be stem, not leaflet. So this particular statement is wrong. Axillary buds form the slender and spirally coiled tendrils and cucumber and pumpkin. Axillary bud, yes, axillary bud. Stem is flattened and fleshy in opentia and modified from function leaf, yes. The rhizophora shows vertically upwards growing roots that help in oxygen for respiration, yes. The subaerial growing stem in grasses and strawberry helps in vegetable propagation, yes. So what is the answer? B, C, D, E. 4, option number 4. Option number 4. Clear? So you might have gotten confused because you might have not read properly. It's supposed to be stem and not leaf. It is supposed to be stem. Understood? It's supposed to be stem. Next question. Choose the mismatched pair of leaf characters with its example. Okay. Here we have palmately compound leaf, Allistonia, and no. This is the mismatched pair. Because we know Allistonia is world. Allistonia is going to be world. So that's the wrong statement. Wrong. Now, which of the following shows world phyllotaxy Allistonia? Option number 3. Allistonia. Leaves become modified into spines. Leaf becoming modified into spines. That is nothing but your opentia. Right? Opentia. Leaf becoming into spines. Leaf becoming into spines. Thorns is stem modification. Thorns is stem modification. In cymose inflorescence, the main axis in cymose we learned here has unlimited growth. No. Base solitary flower, yes it does. Has unlimited growth, but lateral branches ends in a flower. Unlimited growth is not there. Terminates with a flower, yes it terminates with a flower. But which is the most probable answer? Here. Because they're asking about cymose, they're not asking about solitary cymose. So this statement is also wrong technically. Wrong technically. So option number 4 is the answer. Terminates with a flower. Cymose inflorescence terminates with a flower. Phyllodes is present in. Phyllodes is present in. Phyllodes is a petiole adaptation. Petiole adaptation. So it's going to be Australian acacia. Students, this is your homework question. This is your homework question. Now students, we made beautiful notes today. Beautiful notes. Do you realize how many questions we solved? We made crazy notes today, right? It could be leaf modification, or it could be phyllotaxy, right? Phyllotaxy, or it could be type of leaves. Or it could be sear, or it could be your what is leaf. We also did aerial modification. We learned about aerial modification. We learned about all the different types of modification, sub-aerial modification. We learned about stem modification. We also learned about your root stem modification, underground stem modification. We learned about what is a bud. We learned about different properties of a stem. We also learned about, different regions of root. We learned about root modification, Banyan, storage, gaseous, different regions of root also we learned. Different regions of roots. Yes, done and dusted. We started with types of roots. Types of roots here. So students, with that, your entire chapter till here, notes are also done and everything is done. Everything is done till here. Right? Do you realize that? So if you are not a part of DNA batch, I think Gopika ma'am already told you, there's offers going on right now. Offers going right now. Yes. If you're a part of DNA batch already, this is going to be exciting news for you because new students are going to join. If you're not a part of DNA batch and you want to join DNA batch, here is the thing. DNA batch right now until Saturday, 3,400 plus test series 4,900 plus hard copy Tattva books 6,000. That is basically 7,000. And if you want year-long test series at home, it's just around 1,700. If you want to write it at offline center, 5,000. And if you want offline courses, here are the offline courses, different offline courses at different locations. And students, if you are scoring above 600, we have a special offer for you because you can join DNA batch for free. Yes. So that is the entire thing. Students, let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the comments how was today's class, right? Let me know in the comment section the homework question that is more important. In the homework question, you should let me know in the comment section because I will check later on. I will check in the comments later on what have you have done the homework question, and also let me know in the chat how was the entire class. And if you want the entire notes, it will be available on the Telegram channel. It will be available on the Telegram channel. If you just type Basavaraj Sir Biology, you will get my Telegram channel and the entire notes will be available on the Telegram channel. Okay. So with that being said, take care students, bye bye, and have a great day ahead. Okay, bye bye all of you.